Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here for the high quality of the speakers and the discussions, and for the little blue books, which are extremely useful whenever I go to meetings and receptions. Unfortunately, my ambassador couldn't be here today. He asked me to replace him and say some words, and he sends his regards. I would say that it's absolutely vital that we have these discussions and that we have them very regularly. You might have noticed that 2 weeks ago, our Prime Minister and Foreign Minister came to China. This is actually the first visit outside Belgium at the start of the Belgian presidency that we now hold for the next 6 months. We had the great honor of being received by the President himself, by the Prime Minister, and by the President of the National People's Congress. And we also had a separate meeting with Minister Wang Yi. And I must say, and I sat in those meetings, I was struck by how often we agreed and how little we disagreed. And of course, when we disagreed, it gets into the media. And there's a lot of attention paid to the disagreements, but I do think that the agreements are very, very, very many, but less talked about. 2024 is a very important year, and not only because Belgium has the presidency, but also because we have elections for about half the world population, including in Belgium, but also in the EU. And that is going to change. And I remember from the last CCG event where I was, I think it was a rather pessimistic tone saying we can hope for in 24 is that the relationship doesn't get worse. But I think we should aim higher. And I think we should aim higher and try to improve them. Now, participating in those events with the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, I was struck by how historical, psychological, and cultural factors basically lead to misunderstandings. Even in the very simple logistics, this happened as well. And sometimes, for example, if they take the Chinese approach of never promising something you can't deliver, which is very laudable, but also sometimes not the way I think we in the West see things, because often we set targets that help us aim for something, and maybe we won't achieve them, but at least we have a target and it motivates people. Whereas on the Chinese side, it's rather the opposite. Let's not set a target that is overambitious, and let's just communicate once we are nearly certain that we will achieve this. I think the two main points where we disagree, first of all, and that's not a surprise, is the war in Ukraine. I think on the Chinese side, they seriously underestimate how existential this is for us. Not only because, you might say the simple fact of the energy prices going up. No, it's far more serious than that. The EU itself is a peace project. This is 70 years without war. And now we have a war back on our continent. We clearly see where the fault lies. There is one aggressor and there is one country that has been invaded. But it's also fairly scary, I would say, for people in Western Europe, because changing borders by force could open Pandora's box. There are many borders within the EU, there are many borders in the world. If we accept that might is right and that the powerful can change those, then it's not going to stop there. A second and last element, I would say, is China's underestimation of itself. China often presents itself as a developing country, champion of the Global South, and it is clearly the champion of the Global South, and it has done a lot when it comes to development. At the same time, we're talking about a permanent member of the Security Council. And I do think China's power has grown in the last decades, and I think China's responsibility needs to grow equally. And I do think that it is important that China, in its new role, with its new power, engages more in global issues, both when it comes to things like climate change, as it comes to geopolitical crisis in the world. And therefore, I think that would be our message. Please do more. Thank you.
Okay.